TV.
Welcome back to KickBack. We have entered our final hour of KickBack 2024. Can you believe it?
Can't believe it.
I can't believe it. And first up, we have our friend Greg Horton from London, Ontario. All the way, Greg gets the claim furthest distance travel to the studio today to share about mental health. And new development, you're currently beefing with the band Our Lady Peace. Would you care to elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, actually I do. I got some stuff to talk about. So Our Lady Peace has been a huge influence on my life creatively. When I was a teenager, 15, 16, 17, they were just kind of hitting their stride, and man, oh man, was I just in love with this band. And so years go by, Facebook becomes a thing because I'm that old, and they put a post up there, I've been following them for years, about the song Life. And so I said that it was a really deep song and it had great meaning and meaningful lyrics, and that it was the worst song on the album.
Yeah.
They kind of took exception to that, and it set off a year-long joking flame war with the band. And so actually, if you go and check out the band's page, you can see that they'll say that they're beefing with me right in their info there. And look, if I had to say anything positive about the song Life, okay, it would actually be its message about mental health, and just that, there's something else out there. There's something else that you can, if you're willing to hack it out, you can make it, right? It's out there waiting for you, I think it says right there in the song. So while it was and is a hilarious joke, what I said will always be true. And it's just that, I'm going to back off on that one point about mental health. I love joking around about this stuff, guys. This is how I break the ice on these tough topics and stuff like that. I find for a lot of guys, if we can find a joke in it or something like that, it gets a little easier to talk about mental health, or if we can associate it with a song we like or don't like, we can find ways to talk about it, right?
For sure.
This stuff's not easy to talk about, and I guess that's kind of what KickBack's all about.
Yeah.
Right?
So why do you think it's so important to talk about men's mental health?
Holy cow, man! Are you, like, for sure, it is so important to talk about this because we're losing brothers every day, man. I'm just gonna say it. They're killing themselves out there, right? And it's all different. Sometimes people are hurting themselves with alcohol, or people are hurting themselves with just the lifestyle. And other times it's more obvious, like drugs and stuff. But this is what's kind of special or unique about men's mental health, is we take it out. We take it out. And so we turn towards those kinds of things to try to relieve whatever it is on our mind, and we're not doing a great job at it when we're turning to that stuff, So it's important to talk about this kind of stuff because people don't know that's not the good way to handle it, I don't know about you guys, but when I was young, one of the best ways that we thought to help out our buddies was to take them to the bar and just get them as drunk as possible. And we thought this was going to be the way, because if they're drunk, they can stop thinking about their problems and stuff like that. And we thought, as pals, we were really helping our friend who we didn't know 20 years from then would become an alcoholic, or already was an alcoholic and just didn't know until it was being doled out, And so it's important to talk about this kind of stuff, because if we don't have the language, we don't have the actions, we don't have the resources, the options, the anything, and we start doing stuff accidentally out of love to hurt people. And so unless we get on this idea of, like, not just trying to establish it as important, we establish it as everyday topic. This is something we're always talking about, making sure, no bones are broken, no sicknesses, no mental health issues,
right?
And if there is, talking about it fearlessly and just having it as normal as talking about having a cold or having another thing that's going on in your life. Instead of and we've been talking about this for 7 years now,
right.
Stigmatization of people who are dealing with mental illness. I'm fired up tonight, boys. I'm fired up.
I can feel the passion.
I'm ready
and the
for
energy.
This, shoot me another one. What's next?
Why do you feel that men tend to struggle in silence? Why
Man.
do we go internal?
I think we're ill-equipped. I think that coming up through school, we get a lot of academic knowledge, and we kind of get a lot of social knowledge and stuff like that. But especially, so I'm 40, and the word suicide is, maybe it still is censored off of TV. I'm sorry if I said the wrong word, but maybe I'm not. You know, when we're talking about this and I bring up these things, I notice kind of a shock on some people when I'm talking about it so openly and so emotionally about it. And that ill-equippedness, if that's even a word, has left it where that's what we get, is the fight or flight response, right? Where we don't know what to say or anything like that, so we break the ice with something. But what if we can use that icebreaker as, instead of a deflection, what if we can use it as a tool? And we can get around that fight or flight response that is so powerful, is so powerful. So instead of bringing it up like, Aiden, you and I, we're gonna have the mental health talk. I've been noticing you're sad lately, so tell me, man. It can be hard to open up like that sometimes, right?
Yeah.
But if it's like, you find your next social opportunity, or you create the next social opportunity, it's something healthy and something that's active, something that has you doing things that are physical, that can bond you, and then you start talking about maybe your mental health. Instead of calling out the other person and challenging, you invite them to help you on your own journey. What I'm talking about here, boys, is community building, but with men,
Right.
you know? Our grandfathers and great-grandfathers used to get together at the Legion, and it was one of the only places in Canada that men could go and talk in a group setting about things that had affected them. And in this case, it was World War II and a lot of the other wars that did that. But where's our Legion, guys?
Right.
Where do we get together as a bunch of guys? And one of the things that we're doing is knowing that we've all been through something, and that we all need to unite on this thing through casual conversation, through buying your buddy a plate of wings, by going outside in the freezing cold and hugging it out because you know this time it was just too hard.
Right.
That's the kind of stuff that doesn't even approach the fight or flight. That's when you're getting people at their best, ready to be their best. And if we start equipping people like that, where when they're coming into mental health situations, they know they're getting support, not just from one, not from two, but an entire community of people. There's something that unites half of this whole population on this planet. Well, no, you know what? I have to change that, okay? I have to change my thinking. There's something that can unite us all, and that there's masculinity inside every single person, okay? And it's something that we can reflect on, that when we see somebody struggling with that on a mental health level, we can dig into that part of ourselves, anybody, and go and offer ourselves to that man who is suffering. And until we can figure out how to pick up those tools and keep those tools and use those tools fearlessly, we're gonna be stuck in this loop of guys just falling to the wayside with really, really sad stories,
Right, and I think that's what this is all about, is just starting those conversations. And if you can get to the place of being able to hold these conversations for your friends, for your family, that's where it needs to snowball, right? It needs to go like that and just continue to grow so that people feel comfortable. And we'll be right back after this.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
I still remember the games. The laughter, the footsteps through the hallway. I'll never forget the challenges.
Every day I come back from work, it's always like this. We're yelling in front of the kids.
I'll never forget the help we needed. How far we've come.
Join Carolina Suarez for Tapestry Hall Style, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. on Rogers TV.
I'm sure right now a lot of you feel like you aren't able to be who you truly are.
What's most important, more important than everybody else knowing who you are, is that you know who you are.
As a young person, time moves slower for you. And just know that things will get better.
It Gets Better Canada is a registered Canadian charity with a focus on uplifting our queer youth through the power of digital storytelling.
As a Two-Spirit person, I use they, them pronouns, but that's not the case for every Two-Spirit person.
There are so many voices out there that we didn't have 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
No matter what your mind tells you, you really are perfect the way you are, so stop beating yourself up so much.
I'm gonna be a boy in a dress, because why not?
Your identity is explosive.
We all have our unique journeys, but one thing that connects us all is the desire to be happy, the desire to celebrate being our authentic selves.
Aging Well brings you conversations with experts to help empower your golden years with enthusiasm and optimism. Don't miss Aging Well with Angela and Alice Liu, Thursdays at 7:30 p.m.
After a night out with your friends, there's always options for getting home safely. You could call your BFF, your mom or dad, whoever you can count on for a safe ride home. You could call your favorite cab company or 1-888 taxi guy. Or you could use the Arrival Live smartphone app to help you choose your ride. Be it a friend, transit, or taxi, getting home safely is app easy. Now available for iOS and Android devices. Visit arrivallive.org to find out more. Arrival Live, drive sober.
Welcome back to KickBack. We are going to continue our conversation with Greg Horton of The Casual Athlete. Greg, again, thank you so much for being here.
It's always a pleasure, man.
We're speaking specifically to men's mental health, and I love your passion behind this subject. I really appreciate it. And we just wanted to talk about, what do you think people need to know about the men that are suffering?
I think people need to know that men who are suffering communicate that suffering in a way that might be less expected. There's lots of different types of communication that goes well beyond the verbal. And for men, I think what happens is that we put a lot in front of our problems because we don't want to inundate or bother other people with our problems. You know, we don't want to be a weight or an anchor. We want to send people forward. We want to show our strength and our abilities. When we can't do that, I notice a lot of guys, myself included, I was telling you guys a little bit earlier, we put stuff in front of it. So we put on our armor and no one's gonna hurt us and we have this taken care of. And eventually we put on so much armor, so much protection that we can't walk, we can't be accessible to anybody. And even if people come and try to help us, we are so weighed down that we can't hear it. It gets us into a point where even when people come to try to help, it's very difficult. And so the longer we let a man suffer, the worse it's gonna get. It's very unlikely that a person's going to be able to solve their own problems without any help or support or anything at all. Earlier I was talking about how men, we can use this community that's all around us, who can activate this part of themselves to understand where we who identify as men are going through this stuff, right? And we can draw people in if we can speak to them. But unless we start learning how to take off some of this, and that, what I mean is showing some of our vulnerability, guys, and just saying, like, for once, in front of people we love, people we trust, people that we got skin in the game with, I can't do everything. Maybe we can say I can do anything, but I can't do everything, you know, and then starting to, instead of being that, you know, shining white knight going out on the battlefield against a million enemies all by yourself, you know, instead you've got an army with you. you know, a fighting chance. I think there's this romantic notion about the guy who goes out there and deals with it all on their own, and they're tough enough, and they just got enough grit, and they rub some dirt on their emotions, and they're good to go, okay? Right. But that ain't how it flies, baby. It just don't work like that, right? And so this is why I think it's time that we start elevating way beyond this mental health awareness, okay? I think I'm aware. Are you aware? Definitely. Are you aware, man? I hope everyone's aware now, because it's time for us to go out there and get some action going on every day, all the time. All the time. Not just sometimes when we see someone's down, but what are we doing for mental health support when someone is up? How are we stretching that out? How are we getting in on every level and getting to bond with our boys? You know, that's how we do that, is we get to know them, you know? We get to know their strengths and their vulnerabilities, and then we protect them. And if we're all protecting each other, if we're all into this mind frame of we take care of each other when it's this kind of situation, and we boost each other when it's the other one. Do you guys remember MNG?
Yeah.
Didn't it feel like that? That's what it felt like to me, right? Millennial networking group, boys and girls, okay, It was a good time. It was a good time. So what I mean here, guys, and I've been trying to preach this, okay, is that if you don't know what to do about helping with mental health out there, start with your core values, okay, and then start projecting them everywhere. All right, as long as there's something like, if your value is, I don't know, buying yachts or something like that, that could be tough. But if your value is helping out your neighbors or getting more involved with your family, or pick one that's one of those heartwarming good stories that you're gonna, you know, light someone's fire with. That's what we need, you know. So until we're ready to be vulnerable, until we're ready to get hurt doing this, we'll get hurt in the gym and we'll get hurt at work, but we won't get hurt emotionally. You know, maybe we got to get ready to get tough like that and take those hits to toughen up, right?
And I think there's just so much fear around, or like the stigma around saying that you're not okay. Right? Like I've personally in the last 6 or 7 months have started, when somebody's asked me, how are you doing? I don't say I'm just fine. Yeah. I say a little bit more than that, and it's led to a lot of interesting conversations. Yeah. And some have expanded more into deeper elements of like mental health and just how that's feeling. But literally, I'd say probably 8 out of 10 times, it's led to that other person reciprocating with something that they've been struggling with, or that they struggled with recently that nobody was aware of, but that was something that they had to work through. And I think it's just so powerful to be open and honest with people, even at the possibility of that potentially, like you have to pick and choose who you do that with, but start with family, start with friends, and then you can work your way to like spreading that love out to like further into the community, right? So that we can continue that conversation.
It's brain work, man. It's practice. Right? And when you start practicing on the people that are on your inner circle, and you see the kind of reciprocation and that kind of reverberation that happens, it starts to push its way outward, and other people start to notice, you know, wow, Ben's just a great guy with his family. I wish I was a little bit more like Ben. What's he doing? You know? Or Aiden, he's doing great with his career. It looks like he's really focused. Maybe I should, you know, focus on my career. But when you start getting these close people who are doing these things and they're doing the same thing back to you, it starts to feed off itself. It's not this gargantuan effort of trying to flip your life over or anything like that. It's just finding the things that matter and attaching yourself to them. For me, community matters. My guys, they matter. You know, I'm trying to reach out. I'm trying to realize that we are way, way, way behind on this conversation. I'm glad we're having it now, and I'm glad I'm having it with you guys, right? Because I know that you guys are the type that go out and spread the word. We're literally doing it right now publicly. So I think we're doing a good job. But we need other guys out there doing the same thing, okay? And we need some guys to change their mind now, yesterday, you know, because if they don't change their mind about this, they're gonna lose things that they were never expecting that they would lose. Close friends, close family, kids turning their backs, stuff like that, you know. If we can't change, then we can't evolve, we can't move, we're stuck, we're frozen. And I just got to go back to that example. You've put so much armor on being tough that, yeah, you're invincible, you're untouchable, you know. Untouchable, it's not for me, guys. It's not.
And Greg, why is it important for you to, like, you're so passionate about this subject, why is it important for you to share this message that you're sharing with us today?
Last year, you guys might remember, but everyone listening might not, I came right after my best friend and head of fitness's funeral. And we don't know exactly what happened to Liam, but he was found by himself with drugs and alcohol at the scene. He quit his job with me. Prior to that, that was the communication, right? He gave me his father's jacket, leather jacket.
Yeah.
His father had
30
died
seconds left. Greg.
a couple of years before that. And so I started a charity called Liam's Lift, okay? And what I do is I take a couple bucks, I throw it at some people in the Strathroy community to try to help them out. Liam would love it, I love it, and I would love it if you could support that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Greg. And where, Liam's Lift?
Liam's Lift. You can find it at casualathlete.ca.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Greg. We really appreciate your time. Thank you for coming in, and we will be right back after this.
I still remember the games, the laughter, the footsteps through the hallway. I'll never forget the hard times.
Every day I come back from work, it's always like this. We're yelling in front of the kids.
The help we needed. How far we've come.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Petiti, the host of Not Tonight. It's the new late night talk show right here on Rogers TV. We got fabulous guests, a lot of laughs. It's just like the Jimmy Kimmel Show, if you order the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Wish. So join me Sunday at 10 o'clock right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
Weekly features on local events and organizations. Interviews with local community members speaking on what's happening in and around your community. Your region this week. All local, all year round. Fridays at 6 p.m. right here on Rogers TV.
It's the personal finance show that dares to ask those money questions you've always wanted to. Join Mike Bregueth when he talks with experts on all aspects of money. Money Matters with Mike Bregueth, Thursdays at 8 p.m. on Rogers.
We were born in Canada. We spoke English. On the streets, we weren't welcome. But on the field, we were the Asahi. Vancouver's champions. Everyone cheered for us. Our people had a voice. Then Canada declared war on Japan. They took us from our homes, called us enemies, forced us into camps. But we brought the game with us. Baseball helped get us through the internment.
The Vancouver Asahi were among the 22,000 Japanese Canadians interned during the Second World War. The team never played another game.
The regulars, the guys who keep this place in business. Last week, they had something to celebrate. Jason had just finished university. So they toasted his profs, his TAs, his old roommates. Well, they toasted just about everyone. But I worry about and take care of my guys. So even when I know they're not driving, sometimes that means bringing them a little surprise. And then they had a drink to me.
Brought to you by Smart Serve Ontario and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name's Aiden.
And we are now joined by Tammy Adams from Brant Mental Health Solutions. Thank you so much for joining us, Tammy.
Oh, thanks for the invitation.
We wanted to talk about grief, specifically grief with men.
Okay.
Can you share first off a little bit about what is grief?
Okay. And thank you for that question, because it's an important one. We tend to think it's the death of a loved one, which of course it is, or a romantic breakup. But there's actually over 40 reasons why we might grieve. And so many of those get overlooked because we kind of lock ourselves into this box of the death of a loved one. So I would like the audience just to filter their life through these kind of 5 definitions. So grief is an emotional loss of any kind. It's also a change in something that we knew to be familiar. It's about all those things in our lives that we wished had been better, different, or more, our unrealized hopes, dreams, and expectations. And finally, it's about all of those things that remain left unsaid, or things that we said that we thought weren't heard, or things that we wish we could say again, only this time with someone listening. So when you take those 5 definitions and then you filter that through all these 40 reasons, it's absolutely no wonder that we're all walking around with unresolved grief we don't even know we have.
That's amazing. Like, I had no idea that there was that many aspects to it to be able to, but it makes a lot of sense.
It does. Every novel, every TV show, every movie, every play, it's all driven by unresolved emotions.
And I think you put it so well. So like when an individual is grieving, like how does that show up?
Well, it shows up a little bit different for men or women. Now, grief is the same for both genders, and the process is the same, but it tends to show up a little differently. For example, women may not always have the tools, but it's acceptable for us to sit down, talk to a girlfriend, cry openly, complain, try to find the answer. But for men, it's not. It's, man up, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, put your chin up, just move on. And so all of those unresolved emotions, they don't go anywhere. They just go down inside of us. And we push them down and we push them down and we push them down. Well, with men, that tends to show up as this low-grade anger. Now, it doesn't have to, but most of the men that I work with, that's how it comes out. And then when they reach those moments where it kind of, it explodes, well, again, it's socially acceptable for a guy to just kind of lose it, right? And it's almost like, think of a steam kettle sitting on the stove, and the pressure's building, and it's building, and it's building. But with unresolved grief, it's like somebody's put a cork in the spout, right? And so a man may have those moments of release, and then the cork goes right back into the spout again. So it's much different for men, and I really, my heart goes out to men because I feel they're at a great disadvantage just because of the way that society has not encouraged them to be able to share those feelings. Yeah.
Right. And how might, for viewers at home maybe that don't realize, you just dropped a big piece of information there as far as how many different types of grief there are. What are some ways that grief can show up in somebody's life?
There's a variety of different ways. And what I want to stress to the audience is there's no universal reaction to grief. So there's not a one-size-fits-all. It'll show up differently for everybody. But you might find that your eating is disrupted, your sleep patterns are disrupted. There might be a lack of focus. And one of the big things that we're really not aware of is when we first experience a loss, there's usually excess energy, and so we'll do things a little bit more than we used to. So we might have an extra glass of wine, might watch another movie on Netflix, might shop a little bit more, that sort of thing. And that's pretty normal and natural in that first, short period of time right after you experience a loss. But what happens is if those go unrecognized and they go unchecked, well, you've got to have another glass of wine or another bag of chips, or you need to shop just a little bit more. And so we refer to those as STRBs, short-term energy relieving behaviors, which, like I say, are very normal at the beginning, but not helpful if they're left, because then they are running the show.
Right. And what do viewers at home that maybe recognize that they have a family member who is dealing with grief, but what do people need to understand as far as how like men process this? It might be your brother, it could be your son, a grandpa, your dad, uncle, whoever. What do people need to understand about how men process grief?
Well, I think the important thing is, especially for a man, it's really difficult for them to, let's call it the stage, step up on the stage and really share that story. And what we're taught in our culture is by sharing our own story, we're offering support. So I want you to think about how hard it was for that man to get up on that stage and actually share his feelings. What we tend to do, thinking we're being helpful, is we push them off the stage and we start telling our own story, not because we want the attention, but because some twisted way we think that's our way of supporting them. So I would say the first and foremost thing to do is just to be a heart with ears. Mm-hmm. Like, provide that safe place. Don't try to fix it. Don't offer advice. Don't tell them what they should or shouldn't feel. Don't put a time frame on it. Just allow them that safe place where they can express those emotions and not feel judged.
Right, and what would you tell somebody who maybe is experiencing grief currently right now and they recognize that? What would you say to them at home?
The first thing I would say is be aware. Like, be aware of how you're feeling, be aware of those stirs that you might be engaging in. Learning how to kind of be aware and put a name to those emotions. Journaling is a really good way to begin that process. But the real trick to moving to the other side of grief is very personal, it's very overwhelming, and it's very, very hard to be the observer in your own life. And without the correct steps in order to identify and process those emotions, we just keep looping and looping and looping. So I guess, one of the takeaways I'd like to have people take from this is to normalize not only the conversation of what grief is, normalize it for men, but also to normalize the fact that it's okay to reach out for help. We have just for so long felt on our own and that we have to process these emotions and figure it out. Well, without the correct tools, it's like trying to paint a room with a screwdriver. Right. It just gets messy.
And Tammy, where can people find more from you?
They can reach me at the Mental Health Solutions office in Brantford.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us today, Tammy. It's been a pleasure, and we will be right back after this.
Today, I helped a senior find transportation to an important medical appointment.
Today, I helped a new mom find virtual programming so she didn't feel so isolated.
Today, I helped someone understand new government supports.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
Do you like talk radio? Catch a televised simulcast of The Mike Farwell Show. Listen to callers rant or rave. Watch interviews with guests on topics impacting your community. The Mike Farwell Show, weekdays from 10 till noon on Rogers TV. David Prang from the Chamber of Commerce Brantford Brant speaks with community members about events and organizations that impact the city of Brantford and the county of Brant. Chamber TV, Thursdays at 6:30 p.m., right here on Rogers TV.
Our ancestors came here from France to build a better life. We lived here happily for generations, until the British decided they wanted our land. The men were called to a meeting and then imprisoned. They demanded we swear an oath to their king and took everything, regardless. We were forced from Acadie, the only home we knew. Mon Acadie n'existera plus.
From 1755 to 1763, over 10,000 Acadians were ripped from their homeland. Despite this, Acadian culture endures in Atlantic Canada.
Join Carolina Suarez for Tapestry Hall Style, Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. on Rogers TV.
Everybody knows not to drink and drive, but some people still think it's okay to take drugs and drive. Police have the authority, the ability, and the tools to determine if drivers are impaired by legal or illegal drugs. And because drug-impaired drivers can pose just as great a risk as drunk drivers, they face the same penalties, like the loss of their driver's license, a criminal record, fines, and more. A message from the RCMP, the Canadian Association of Chiefs of Police, and Arrive Alive, Drive Sober.
Welcome back to KickBack. My name is Ben.
My name's Aiden.
And we are excited to have Bill in studio. Bill, you're a registered social service worker.
You got it.
With Brand Mental Health Solutions, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you're also here to talk about 6 Feet.
That's right.
And this is an organization that you founded?
Yeah, me alongside 2 OPP officers.
Wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about what 6 Feet is?
Sure. 6 Feet is currently housed in my basement because my beautiful, lovely, caring, and understanding wife let me retrofit our basement into like a martial arts club.
Cool.
So we started when COVID shut all of the jiu-jitsu clubs down, and we needed somewhere to train. And I bought some mats and started putting things together, and in very short order, we realized when things closed down, how affected we were, just our day-to-day, and like our, you know, our standpoint from a mental health perspective was affected. So 6 Feet endeavors to open a facility to blend martial arts training with access to formal mental health supports for first responders. And our main focus is on more of the upstream side of mental health. So less about people in crisis and dealing with things actively, and more about preparing first responders to interact with trauma.
Right. And I think that's incredible because oftentimes the individuals that are putting themselves in those positions that have become police, fire, paramedic, whatever it might be, front line, they are put up on the pedestal of being strong, and they don't necessarily have those issues to deal with, right? And they deal with so much. They put themselves in harm's way consistently, and it's so important to be able to actively train them so that they're prepared for something instead of dealing with the crises that they're dealing with, becoming one of them themselves, right?
Yeah, you know, so I look at it like there's an awful lot of support for people once they start having a hard time with some of these calls or some of these experiences. But there's not as many supports available to actively prepare people in a very formal way and to recognize the tools or, you know, the tactics, techniques, and procedures you can use to get yourself ready. Here's the way I explain it to people who are brand new to jiu-jitsu. You imagine that you're standing on top of a castle wall, surveying everything you've built and everything that you're proud of. And off in the distance, there's this clan of barbarians. And we'll call that trauma.
Right.
And no matter what you do, it doesn't matter how you discuss it with them, they're coming. And I think the thing that allows you to get ready is the recognition that there's time involved. They're not here yet. They're on the way. So what we're trying to do is build bigger bricks, right? We're trying to get those walls to be prepared for when some of those calls come along.
Right. And how has the project been received so far?
I mean, pretty well. So I'm a volunteer firefighter with the County of Brant, and I have a handful of guys from different stations coming through, and certainly privately, it's brought to me that jiu-jitsu and grappling and martial arts and all of the things that fragments into through the rest of your life turns into really a system that allows people to get ready.
Right.
You know, so received well so far.
Awesome. And the physicality behind jiu-jitsu, specifically for men to be able to combat like that, must be a release for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's layers here too. For any of your viewers that aren't familiar, jiu-jitsu is a grappling martial art. So it's like wrestling. It's what the UFC does on the ground, let's say. And the benefit of that style of martial art is that you're not really getting hit in the head a lot. So it allows you to train with a lot of intensity. And, you know, so I preface a lot of people's first nights by saying we practice hard feelings on the mats so we know what to do with them in real life. But on the other side of that, it allows men specifically maybe to practice a part of themselves and to reference and to meet a part of themselves that is wildly inappropriate in any other facet of life.
Right.
You actually get to express a violent part of yourself and understand the power that you can be capable of, and then actively make the decision to harness that and not just let that run wild. And I think there's something incredibly meaningful about that process.
Right, and I can tell and I can feel it, the passion behind this, and I can see you lighting up about it.
Yeah.
Why is doing this important for you?
Oh, that's a great question. Because somebody has to. And because somebody has to. And if we count on the systems that are in place to do this for us, like there's a flag hanging up in our gym that says nobody's coming. And it's this idea or this premise that says, you know, for big things to happen, you have to move these gigantic bureaucratic boulders out of the way and try and find these flanks and all this political stuff. We can get that done in my basement.
Right.
You know, and so why is it important? Because I've seen failures in large systems with the way that first responders are underserved when it comes to mental health. And I'm naive enough, or maybe foolish enough, to believe that I can do something about that. Here's the best way that I can put it. Jordan Peterson's a thinker from University of Toronto. Of course, he's done all kinds of things since, but he says that you should aim at the highest possible good. And I really like the way that he defines that. He says you should aim at something that's a net positive for you. But you should also aim at something that's a net positive for your family. So if you're doing something good for you, it's also good for your family. So what if you could do something that's a net positive for you and is also good for your family and maybe for your community? And then if you extrapolate that out to the furthest it can be, the highest possible good might sound something like this. Can I aim at something that's good for me? It's also good for my family. It's also good for my community and maybe the world for the rest of recorded history. And like, why wouldn't you aim at something like that?
Right. Well, that's incredible. I really appreciate all that you're doing for our community, and thank you for pushing for that. Where can people find more about 6 Feet?
At 6feet.ca, proudly Canadian, and on Instagram at 6 Foxtrot, spelled as it sounds, SIXFOXTROT.
Wonderful, and thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate you taking the time, Bill. Thank you, and we will be right back after this.
Today, I helped a parent feed their family by connecting them to a food program.
Today, I helped someone connect with mental health supports.
Today, I helped a couple struggling to pay their bills access financial aid.
Every day, 211 navigators connect Canadians to critical government and community programs and services.
211. Help starts here.
Hey folks, it's me, Giovanni Petiti, the host of Not Tonight. It's the new late night talk show right here on Rogers TV. We got fabulous guests, a lot of laughs. It's just like the Jimmy Kimmel Show. If you order the Jimmy Kimmel Show on Wish. So join me Sunday at 10 o'clock right here on Rogers TV. Nice.
I'm Wendell Clark with a word about winning. We all know it takes a team effort in any sport and with any challenge. You can be a part of the winning team that shuts out impaired driving. Whether you're out on the town or just hanging out with friends, drink responsibly. Always have a plan for a safe ride home for yourself, your family, and your friends. You'll be helping to shut out impaired driving.
Visit ArriveAlive.org to find out more. Arrive Alive. Drive sober.
We fought our way through Italy and then headed for Amsterdam, sweeping for Germans along the way. Our worst fear was to catch a bullet in these last hours of the war.
I was 15 when the Nazis invaded the Netherlands. More than 100,000 Dutch Jews never came home. Our men were put into forced labor. By 1945, we were starving. The food drops gave us hope. And then, the Canadians came.
Before Amsterdam, I couldn't have explained why we were there, all those years away from home, but the Dutch showed us why it mattered.
Papa wanted me to bring some soldiers home to thank them personally. And that's when I first saw Wilf. And I invited him over that afternoon.
Marguerite Blaise married Lieutenant Wilf Gildersleeve. They moved to Vancouver, where they raised 8 children. Today, the Dutch still remember the Canadians who liberated them.
With Rogers TV, you can cheer on the home team from the comfort of your living room. We'll head to the rink, the field, the court, or the pitch, so you don't have to. Tune in and cheer on your local amateur athletes on Rogers TV.
Welcome back to KickBack. This is the final segment of our production today. Aiden, it's been fun, as always.
Yes.
It's been educational. We've learned. We're still joined by Bill, which is lovely to have you. And it's been an incredible, it's just always incredible to see the people that come on and share what they're passionate about. And to see, I love seeing people light up. And I saw that a lot today about just people talking about their passions, about what they're doing. And that's what this takes. In order to continue these conversations and to make a difference in this and to save people, it takes people like we've talked to today, like Bill, who are making a difference and pushing forward and just changing it up.
Yeah.
And so just thank you, Bill. I appreciate what you're doing. And I appreciate our viewers out, and it's been fun. And I think today it's just a confirmation of that the conversations just need to continue to happen.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right, and we just need to continue that, and just to be open with people about how we're feeling. And if you're watching at home and you're sitting around the table, or you're hanging out with your spouse or your partner or whoever, just saying, you know what, I've been struggling with this lately, and this is something that I've been dealing with, and I don't know what to do with it. And just maybe talking it out loud, just saying it out loud might make the world of difference. Just hearing you say something might snap you out of whatever you're dealing with, or it might, like, just a handful of stories around the idea of all it took was some stranger to wave at me or to say good morning, and it changed their entire outlook on what they were dealing with. It's be kind to people, right? Just show up and be kind.
Definitely. Yeah, I think throughout every guest that joined us, there's kind of that common topic of community and being kind to each other. And I love seeing the people that are like so passionate about it in their own way and in their own life, where that's what really kind of gets you through those hard times, is having those things that you love and you care about, and being able to bring it back to those things that you've put your focus on. Like for you doing the jiu-jitsu, other people it can be whatever, but really putting all of your attention into that one thing that you love the most and kind of building that mastery in it.
I mean, I think too, just to speak on, you know, a couple of guys speaking openly like this, just like this. You know, you were saying about how reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling. It reminds me, you know, I serve on the CISM team for the county fire department. So what that means is if firefighters respond to a call where things are more traumatic, they come back to their hall, and the CISM team responds to help people kind of debrief and sort through some of that stuff. And I'm reminded over the holiday season, if I can speak on, you know, behalf of what we saw out there, it was rough in the county this holiday season. There was quite a few of those calls. And you might imagine a scenario where there's a bunch of firefighters in a room like this, and you're, oh, I'm fine. And we had one CISM debriefing where, what do you know, somebody just said, I went to church last night and it was weird, right? And then just let that simmer for a second. And weird is not bad, it's just different. And to have the self-awareness in the first place to recognize that something was weird is one thing, but to acknowledge it in, you know, in that case, a public venue where you've got, you know, the rest of the crew around, or certainly here where you're talking about your feelings in front of all of your viewership or whatever, it's another thing entirely to come out and say, hey, that was weird. I feel weird about that.
Right, totally.
You know, so I think, and that speaks to resolve and strength and courage. It comes from the same place as I really identify with the guy who comes to his first jiu-jitsu class. At our club, they're all giants. It's like fighting fridges. Like, they're just big dudes. And it's intimidating. It's intimidating to even know what you're getting into, and then you show up and it's in some guy's basement. And like, there's all these layers of what's going on. But people come out for that first shot, and that's a cousin. Like that the type of courage that you need to, the type of resolve that you need to fortify yourself with to be able to do that is a cousin of the type of decision it is to come out and say to somebody, I'm having a hard go here. You know, whether it's in public or just to your spouse, as you say.
Right, and it's just knowing that it's okay to do that.
Yeah, this process here acknowledges that. It normalizes. That's, I think, certainly as men, if I can speak on that, what we maybe even have the responsibility to do for other men in our circles is to be open enough and to take a large enough risk to say to another guy, I'm having a hard go here. And maybe not even I'm having a hard go, but I've experienced something.
Right.
Because sometimes that's enough, is that that you might not have, you know, in my case, somebody come out and say, you know, that last call was really sticky and I'm having a hard time going to sleep, or pick your symptom. I'm drinking more, I'm not working out, I'm angry at my cat for no reason. But to even come out and say, to maybe admit that that was a traumatic call.
Right.
And, you know, one of the things that we discuss on the mats and certainly off the mats is this premise that I'm working on called the heroic ideal, okay, where you want to make a room full of firefighters or cops feel really uncomfortable really fast, start using the word hero. Okay, but the fact of the matter is, when something happens, big rope rescue in New York, everybody's like, the heroes on the rooftop, blah, blah, blah. So what that says to me is that I'm expected, given my position, to do the things in my lifestyle that heroic people do, because that's kind of what people are looking at you for. Now, the thing that gets mixed up with is you don't have to wear a firefighter's helmet to do that, right? We all have family, we have friends, we have, certainly by virtue of you being alive, you are going to experience traumatic situations. The barbarians are coming, right? They're coming. And you have this opportunity now, it's like I'm going to bestow this onto you. You have this opportunity to ready yourself so that when the time comes, and, you know, pick your poison. When you're at the hospital and something happens and the whole family's there and everybody's drawn up, somebody's going to have to step forward, right? And you can functionally get ready for that like a skill, right? You can subject yourself to unmeasurable difficulty. Go run a marathon, right? And that's functionally preparing you to step in front of trauma. Come to my jiu-jitsu club.
Right.
You know, but these things are the things that you can do to get ready for that. You don't need to have a badge. You don't need to be in the back of an ambulance, or never mind the people who are in those first responder roles, animal welfare people, forensic photographers, child welfare specialists that aren't lumped in with the, you know, cops, fire, EMS, and dispatchers kind of thing,
Right.
but who are nonetheless out there,
right,
you know, interacting.
Right, and it's just been, I really appreciate, we have to wrap up for the day, but thank you again so much for being here, Bill. We appreciate the extra time with you today. I would just want to send a thank you out to Aidan and the entire production team here at Rogers TV, everybody that's been involved with us, all of the guests, everybody that's watched today, everybody that's commented, talked, helped, shared, promoted this over the last 7 years. It's been a fun journey. It's been eye-opening, and just know that it's okay to not be okay. And thank you. If you were struggling today and you spent it with us, thank you. And don't be afraid to share how you're feeling with your friends, your family, your loved ones. And that wraps up this year. So thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
You must be the reporter. Come with me.
So, Miss McGill, how does it feel being Canada's famous women engineer?
The real story is the work we've done retooling this factory.
To build the Hawker Hurricane?
Indeed. 40 planes last month with a capacity of up to 100. Our fighters are over England as we speak. Of course, it pains me to see airplanes mass-produced like boxcars or baby carriages. But in war, we make concessions in favor